Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're going to be talking about the fact that YouTube has removed dislikes, or rather, you can still dislike a video for your own personal algorithm use, but in terms of the world forming a consensus around the sentiment on a specific video, that has been eliminated. So it's going to be hard for this not to be somewhat political. I'm going to try to be as apolitical as possible. But I want to go through some examples and then talk about why I think this is very, very bad. So I guess first we can preface this by talking about what other platforms are doing and have done. So I'm going to share my screen. This is Twitter, right? And on Twitter, there is no dislike button. So many people might say, okay, well, how is this any different from Twitter or Facebook where there is no dislike button? Why is this any different? They're just doing what they're doing. Well, Twitter and Facebook are very bad for censorship. I mean, we know YouTube is too, but there's a big difference here because anyone can start a conversation about a topic and anyone can come in and join the conversation. With YouTube, it's hard for us to control, or rather, it's hard for them to control that narrative, that discussion narrative. And because of that, they kind of just eliminate it entirely. Because, anyone can just start talking about this, but only the specific video on YouTube that you're talking about will there be discussion, right? No, the masses aren't going to go and discuss the 2018 YouTube Rewind on a secondary video talking about the video that doesn't include the video. Because then you're just getting so far into the into like a derivative of a derivative, and then it's like it's not really the real thing anymore. Whereas Twitter, anyone can pull up that video, post it again, share a picture of it, whatever, and start a discussion about it, and anyone can participate. Obviously, you can start hiding replies, you can block people, you can do a lot of different things, but Twitter is very open because everyone can generally get in the conversation, start new conversations, keep it going. Whereas YouTube, it would all be centered around that specific video. And if you turn off comments, if you filter comments, the only possible way to form any consensus is through the dislike and like ratio, which is now being removed. So again, you might wonder, who is this really for? Of course, they say this is for, creators who are struggling with the negativity, et cetera, et cetera. Realistically, I don't think if you're getting all this negative sentiment it should inform you that you're probably doing something that isn't very ideal for your audience. It also helps you know what people want and like, but if you can't find that out, then you don't even know if you're doing anything wrong or not. So I also find that very interesting. But now for the real kicker as to why this is actually happening, right? For videos that they're trying to push a message, they're trying to, basically, it's propaganda because there's no way for you to dissent against it or have an opinion against it, etc. So the 2018 YouTube Rewind video is the most disliked video on all of YouTube with over 19 million dislikes. I've disliked it myself. That is gone now. All you see is dislike and 3 million likes. So to the average viewer, this video is very well liked. There's 3 million likes. That means it's very well liked. It's got lots of views. This is a very good, popular video. The only way you would learn that people do not like it is through the comments. But we know that comments can easily be filtered through keywords. Comments can be turned off. Lots and lots of different things. So a new kind of, I guess the way to know if a video is bad or not is if they've also hidden comments. Or prevented commenting. But again, it's very easy for them to just filter out comments based on keywords, so they can effectively do that still and you wouldn't know. So a perfect example of this is, regardless of what you think I think on these videos, all the COVID news videos, at least here in Canada, are always ratioed like ridiculously for dislike to like. Now you don't know that. But previously, a few days ago when I checked, I wish I had a video of me looking at this a few days ago, but almost every video that I brought up had at least 5 to 10 times the amount of dislikes to likes. And I'm surprised actually that this allows commenting, because you can see people are complaining about it. But if you look at some of them, they do have comments turned off to prevent you from saying anything or having any type of opinion against it. So this is a good example. Comments are turned off. Dislikes are turned off. You just see 333 likes. So this must be fine, right? It's when they need to push a message and they don't want there to be anyone going against whatever that message is, they're going to just control what it seems to be the public perception of that piece of content. So now that we've cleared all of that up, and again, I don't think it really matters necessarily where you land politically. The concern is just that if you're ever in the dissenting opinion of whoever, right, like it could be left or right or whatever, and you could be on the other side of it. If you're ever in the dissenting opinion, you could easily be silenced, and essentially whatever you thought is just, it doesn't matter, because if you tried to comment, your comments get filtered out. If you tried to dislike, that's disappeared. And again, I still don't really like Facebook and Twitter because they're very centralized, very pro-censorship as well. But at the very least, I could take a picture of this. I could link to this video. I could go to Twitter and I could say, this is terrible. And, you could say whatever you want and people could like the fact that I dislike it, which is their way of disliking it. Or, let me bring my screen share back up. You can use Dissenter, which I've talked about in the past, so that you can accurately like or dislike and comment freely without your comments being edited or, just deleted or whatever. Not edited, but deleted or removed or hidden. Dissenter is a great way to be able to do this. I mean, the problem is most people aren't aware of it or don't use it. Gab was put through the ringer with all of the different companies way back in the day. And, a lot of people say it's all just like religious extremists or whatever. There's a lot of, religious people that are on Gab, but it's really just about pro-free speech. Being able to dissent on anywhere on the internet and freely talk about things in a comment section and freely like and dislike, that has nothing to do with religion. That's just free speech. So that is one solution, but because, obviously it's not widely adopted and widely used, it's hard for that to be a solution that accurately reflects the public opinion. For example, the video that I just had up only had 1 dislike on it on Dissenter and no comments. So, it still has to be a fairly popular video for there to be any kind of like reactions or engagements. But as this becomes more of a problem, I think we're going to see more and more people using things like Dissenter, or, just completely forgetting all of this and just going and using crypto social monetized platforms or blockchain social platforms, because you can upvote and downvote and it's all recorded on the blockchain and it's there forever. And there's no getting around it, at least for ones that are, truly decentralized. But this is a big deal. I mean, again, a lot of people will say, yeah, but this is already the case on Twitter and other places. It's a big deal when the piece of content can only really be talked about within that confined space, like we have on YouTube, and all of the moderation can happen right on that piece of content, thus making it so that the public opinion of it is irrelevant. And again, that really just leaves us with propaganda from any type of authoritative source like news. It sounds conspiratorial, but that really is the case. And it's hard for me to show you now because now there's really no way to prove it. But if I showed you a few days ago, as I was checking up on this and preparing for this, it was very clear that a lot of the authoritative sources were massively ratioed in dislikes, where they had 5 times up to 10 times sometimes the amount of dislikes to likes. But now that we don't see that, we don't have that information, and now there's really no way for people to form a public consensus around the sentiment of a specific piece of content. And again, people might say, well, who cares if, someone likes or dislikes something? Yeah, maybe for like random videos, because this still works for your own algorithm to curate your own content. You dislike things if you don't want to see them. You like things that you do want to see more of, and YouTube will change accordingly. So that's good for your own personal usage, but for the public perception of things, it's completely skewed and completely irrelevant now, because everything is just essentially propaganda. You're forcing everyone to believe that pretty much everything is liked, appreciated, and supported, when it's really not the case. And then what they'll do is anything that they really don't want to be liked, appreciated, and supported will just be removed, or banned or censored or whatever. So they'll still have all of the things that they want to be shown that are being promoted, and they've got a bunch of likes and no dislikes. And then anything that would be against their narrative, they could easily just remove it, as they normally do. And then, because then it'll look like those videos are doing well and being supported and liked as well, whether or not they are or aren't. And then it's very easy for them to control the narrative from there. Like everything that they want to be perceived as, liked by the public, everyone sees that. Kids grow up seeing something has likes. That means, people appreciate it. I might be interested in this too. I should look into this. It has a lot of likes. Well, that'll always be the case now. I just find this very, very concerning and very dystopic, because if people can't see what other people actually think and feel, like, it's completely distorting the public perception of everything. And again, I keep going back to, now everything is going to be propaganda. And again, this sounds very like conspiratorial, like the roof is falling, like the sky is falling type content. But it really is the case that we can't trust platforms that are taking away our ability to freely express how we feel about things, forming consensus, sentiment, all these kinds of things. So this isn't going away. This is probably just going to get worse. The only thing that we can really do now is get on alternative platforms that don't have these problems. Two of the best platforms that I would recommend are Hive and Odyssey/Library. There's a lot of platforms out there that are really, really good for this. Many platforms. I mean, if I were to go through the list really quickly, Odyssey/Library, 3Speak, which is on Hive, which I'll mention in a moment. DTube is also really good. Brighteon is not that good. Rumble is fairly good. I wouldn't recommend Coast.tv because they have to approve posts. Rockfin's been good. Hyper is mediocre. Gaze TV is mediocre. I think BitTube and BitChute are good. And Bastion.com and Minds are fairly good for sharing your videos as well. There's a lot of places that you can share videos, but the most important aspect is the decentralization and the anti-censorship. I mean, ideally also monetization, but those two are the most important for, keeping free speech alive within video hosting networks. So this is Odyssey. You can import everything from YouTube or just upload, directly, or use the application library. Whatever you end up doing, this is a great platform for forming consensus and, anti-censorship. You're never going to have a video deleted, all that good stuff. You can see people can freely like and dislike, and you can form consensus this way. And I can't hide this or change this. Well, obviously, like YouTube, I can remove comments and do things like that. You need at least, at the bare minimum, some form of consensus around the sentiment of things, because people shouldn't have to watch something all the way through before they can get an idea of whether or not this is generally a good thing to be watching. Because we're in a time now where that's almost impossible to do. While that would be beneficial for everyone to be able to view everything and look at everything and go through everything, it's not realistic. It's not possible. We have information overload. So the very least is that, like, the very bare minimum is that we have an ability to see the public consensus of a piece of content before we view it. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't view something because it's been disliked a lot. But at the very least, you know what you're going into. It's like if they started removing all of the reviews off of Amazon for products and you just had to guess whether or not the product was good. I mean, a lot of those reviews are fake, but at the very least, you get some idea. Just go and read all the 1-star reviews and see what their problems are and then go from there. I don't really even trust all the 5-star reviews anymore. So this is a very, very good alternative. The other really good alternative is Hive. And one video platform on Hive is 3speak.tv. This is another really great example. It's just using the Hive network, which is probably the most decentralized blockchain integrated platform. And everything is done based on community consensus, including moderation. Anything you could possibly imagine on this platform is basically done through community consensus. So this is probably the best platform for as an alternative to that. But I wouldn't even call these alternatives. I would say these are successors because they're so much better for what they actually offer you. That's pretty much it. I mean, I could go through a million different video platforms and talk about this all day, but I will be doing a comprehensive review of all of the blockchain social platforms out there and probably, or hopefully, get it out before the year ends. But yeah, let me know, like, what do you guys think of this? Is YouTube removing the likes or dislikes? Is this really for creators' mental health? Is this really for propaganda? What is the long-term play here? Again, I don't want this to be political, but it's kind of hard to get around the fact as to why this is obviously being done. A lot of the COVID videos get massively ratioed in dislikes. And it's interesting that they only now decided that they had to come out with this to fix that problem. So let me know what you guys think. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist by any means, but YouTube and these platforms, these legacy platforms, are sliding further and further into censorship and anti-free speech ethos, like an anti-free speech ethos that it's only going to get worse and worse. And they're always going to have a reason for why they have to do this or how it's actually supposed to be helping someone or whatever. It's not in line with the law, meaning that they are superseding what the law is and making up their own edict, basically. And a lot of people say, yeah, but it's a private company. They can do what they want. But Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube make up like the majority of the internet, or rather Google and YouTube together. They make up the majority of the internet. That, throw in Amazon, that's pretty much like 90% of the internet if you include Amazon Web Services. So yeah, I mean, you can not use private companies, but they've basically centralized the entirety of the internet. And only now with blockchain platforms, we're getting a more decentralized Web 3.0 version of the internet. Legacy platforms and everything are built on Web 2.0, like the World Wide Web. And yeah, I think this is very, very important. And it's not just some simple little change. It is very, very big. So let me know what you guys think. I think all the arguments around like, oh, well, Twitter doesn't have it, and all these things are really silly arguments based on what I explained originally. Those are discussion-based platforms versus direct content hosting. Very, very different in terms of moderation and, how public sentiment and consensus around that content is formed. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is YouTube just going to get worse and worse and worse? Do you think maybe that this was a good idea? And I'd love to hear the other side too. Let me know all that good stuff in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching to the very end. And if you did, do comment hashtag #1ham in the comments below. And that way I know that you watched to the very end. I always really much appreciate those of you who do watch all the way. Anyways, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Sconcy Business, signing off. Cheers.